"Open the door, Mr. Thompson. Your wife is under arrest." The pounding rattled the pictures on our wall. Oakwood Heights was usually quiet at this hour. Kids on bikes, sprinklers hissing, dogs barking at mail carriers. But that voice turned my front porch into something from a bad crime show. I pulled the door open to find 4 men standing shoulder to shoulder. Dark blue police uniforms, pressed and sharp. Sunglasses hiding their eyes, pistols already drawn. No smiles, no greetings. Just the kind of silence that meant trouble. "Step aside, sir. She's coming with us," the man in front said. His jaw was square, his tone flat, as if this were just another errand. For a moment, all I could hear was blood in my ears. I'm no stranger to authority, but something didn't fit. No badge numbers, no nameplates, no paperwork, just guns, uniforms, and a claim. A dog barked down the block. Curtains shifted across the street. Oakwood Heights was a neighborhood where people noticed everything. Now they were noticing me, my porch, and these 4 men in blue. "You've got the wrong house," I said, hand still on the doorknob. "Or at least the wrong people." The leader didn't blink. "Mr. Thompson, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Call her out. Now." Behind me, soft footsteps on hardwood. My wife's voice followed, calm, even. "Michael, what's going on?" I turned my head just enough. "They say they're here for you." Her answer wasn't fear. It was steady as stone. "I'll handle it." The screen door creaked and Sarah stepped onto the porch. She wasn't in pajamas and she wasn't nervous. She came out in full sheriff's uniform, silver badge gleaming against her chest, sunlight catching its edges. Her shoulder radio crackled faintly. The 4 men shifted like the ground had tilted beneath them. One's grip on his pistol slipped. Another cleared his throat. Doubt cracked their performance. Sarah didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "You're pointing guns at my husband. Holster them now." The leader tried to recover. "Ma'am, this doesn't concern Sheriff Sarah Thompson." She cut in, tapping her badge. "ID on my belt, dispatch on my shoulder. If you're real officers, you already know who I am. If you're not, you're impersonating law enforcement with loaded weapons. That's 10 years minimum." No one spoke. The air tightened. Across the street, a phone camera clicked. Old Mr. Jenkins leaned on his mailbox, recording everything. The neighborhood was watching, and these men knew it. Sarah pressed her radio button. "Dispatch, this is Sheriff 214 Sierra. For unidentified subjects in dark blue uniforms at my residence. Claiming a warrant for my arrest. Confirm any active orders." The reply came quick, loud enough for every ear on that porch. 214 Sierra. Negative. No warrants. Units rolling your way. Copy for impersonators. The color drained from the leader's face. He looked left, then right, searching for an exit. One man muttered under his breath. Another avoided eye contact. The 4th froze like a mannequin caught in daylight. "You heard dispatch," Sarah said. "Drop your weapons, place your hands where I can see them, and wait for my deputies. Or keep pushing and explain to a judge why you thought you could kidnap a sheriff in her own front yard." The morning sun felt hotter. The air grew heavier. In the distance, faint but rising, came the sound of sirens. Real sirens. That was when I knew. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was the beginning of something far bigger. The sirens grew louder with every heartbeat. Real law was on its way, and the 4 men knew it. I could see it in their stances. Tight jaws, twitching fingers, quick glances toward the street. The leader tried to salvage authority. "Ma'am, we're not here to debate. You're under arrest. Step forward now." Sarah didn't flinch. "On what charge?" "Produce the paperwork. Show me who signed it. Or admit you have nothing." No one spoke. Morning sun glinted off their fake badges. Across the street, Mrs. Parker stood on her porch in her robe, phone raised high. The mail carrier had stopped 2 houses down, watching with his satchel still slung over his shoulder. Our quiet block had become a stage. The second man shifted uneasily. "Sir," he said to me, quieter now, "please move aside. Don't make this harder." I shook my head. You walked onto my property, aimed guns at me, and threatened my wife. It's already hard. Sarah stepped forward, sunlight flashing across her badge. Gentlemen, I've put people in cuffs for less than what you're doing right now. Impersonating law enforcement, brandishing firearms, attempted kidnapping. That's a long list, and the sirens you hear mean you'll be explaining it to my deputies, not to me. The leader raised his pistol higher. You think that badge makes you untouchable? Sarah's eyes narrowed. For the first time, her voice carried steel. No, but it makes me real, which is more than I can say for you. The crowd across the street thickened. Neighbors filmed openly, murmurs spreading like wildfire. Even the men in blue could hear it, the word fake floating from mouth to mouth. The third man finally broke. His hands trembled, pistol wobbling. This wasn't supposed to go like this. Shut up, the leader snapped. But the crack in his command was wide enough for everyone to see. Sarah pressed her advantage. Drop your weapons. Hands where I can see them. Comply now and maybe the DA goes lighter. Keep resisting and you'll be tonight's headline. The sirens screamed down Laurel Avenue, echoing off brick fronts. The leader flicked another glance toward the corner. Fight, flee, or surrender in front of a dozen phones and a sheriff with every advantage. He chose bluster. This isn't over. But his hands twitched and his men weren't backing him. One lowered his weapon. Another shuffled back. The fourth stared at his boots. Sarah didn't move. She just waited, steady as stone. These men had walked up with confidence, uniforms, and guns. But the second real authority stood before them. They looked like exactly what they were. Frauds playing dress-up. Tires screeched at the corner. Red and blue lights washed over the street, spilling across the lawn, the imposters and Sarah's badge, shining like a mirror of truth. 2 patrol cars screeched to a stop. Doors flew open. Deputies in tan uniforms stepped out, weapons drawn. Drop the guns, one barked. Now! The imposters hesitated, caught between keeping up the act and admitting defeat. The leader's jaw worked like he was chewing nails, but even he could see the trap snapping shut. Slowly, he lowered his pistol, metal clattering on concrete. The others followed, surrender ringing louder than their threats ever had. Sarah held her ground, radio crackling. Dispatch, this is Sheriff 214 Sierra. Confirm units on scene. Confirmed. Units present. For impersonators detained. That word, impersonators rolled through the crowd like thunder. Mrs. Parker gasped. Mr. Jenkins muttered, I knew something was off. Phones rose higher. Our quiet block had turned into evidence. One of the men, the youngest looking, stared at the ground, hands cuffed behind his back. His lips moved in a whisper. Wasn't supposed to go this way. Sarah stepped down off the porch. The deputies made room without question. This was her show. You 4 picked the wrong house, the wrong morning, and the wrong sheriff. Oakwood Heights is safe. You're done here. The leader finally spoke, his voice stripped of authority. This isn't the end. Sarah leaned in, close enough that only he and I could hear. It is for you. The neighborhood erupted in low chatter, phones buzzing as videos uploaded in real time. By nightfall, half the county would see what I'd just lived. But watching the imposters get loaded into real squad cars, I felt something shift deep in my gut. This wasn't just about 4 men with guns. This was planned, funded, backed by someone who thought they had the right to send armed pretenders to our door. We were only scratching the surface. The cruisers still sat in the street when another figure came striding up the sidewalk. Gregory Allen. Pressed khakis, golf shirt tucked too tight, clipboard under his arm like a shield. The HOA president, the kind of man who quoted bylaws like scripture. He marched into the chaos, red-faced and breathing hard. This is outrageous. You can't haul them off like common criminals. They were here on official business. Sarah turned slowly. Official business? Yes. Gregory puffed out his chest. They're compliance officers hired by this community. They have the authority to enforce regulations when residents refuse to follow rules. His voice cracked. You've been ignoring notices, Sheriff Thompson. The board won't tolerate exceptions. The crowd stirred like a hive. Murmurs rippled. Phones pointed now at Gregory, the man they'd written dues checks to for years. Sarah stepped forward, boots solid on pavement. Real compliance officers don't wear police uniforms, wave guns at civilians, and claim arrest warrants signed by imaginary judges. Gregory's face went blotchy. You're twisting this. They were only doing their job. They impersonated law enforcement, Sarah snapped. That's a felony. And you paid for it? You put this entire neighborhood in danger. A gasp went through the crowd. Mrs. Parker muttered, Paid for it? Loud enough for 3 phones to catch. Gregory tried to backpedal. The board approved security measures. Nothing more. Security doesn't involve pointing loaded weapons at my husband on our front porch. And it doesn't involve forged warrants. You want to call this compliance? A jury will call it something else. For the first time in years, Gregory looked small. He glanced at the neighbors, the same people who'd nodded at his newsletters, signed his petitions without reading the fine print. Now their eyes burned through him. Someone yelled, You put us all at risk. Another added, My kids were outside. Phones still rolled. Every word was evidence. Gregory clutched his clipboard like a shield, but there was no shield left. The imposters weren't the real danger. The real danger was the man who thought he could buy them. For a heartbeat, Oakwood Heights held its breath. Then everything cracked. One of the imposters, jittery hands, scar down his cheek, suddenly lunged. His wrists were cuffed in front, sloppy work by deputies still wrangling the others. With a guttural shout, he broke free and charged straight at Sarah. The crowd gasped. Mrs. Parker screamed. He had one arm raised, steel cuffs swinging like a weapon, the other reaching for the cuffs on Sarah's belt. You're coming with us, Sheriff, he bellowed. Time slowed. I saw sunlight flash on the cuffs. I saw Sarah's eyes narrow, calm as a surgeon's, and then she moved. She pivoted, caught his arm mid-swing, and twisted. The crack of bone carried across the lawn like a gunshot. His shout turned to a howl as she swept his legs out. He hit the porch face first, cuffed hands pinned behind his back. Sarah planted her knee on his shoulder. Attempted assault on a sheriff. Add that to the list. The neighborhood erupted. Cheers, shouts, phones clicking. Mr. Jenkins shouted, Get him, Sheriff! Deputies swarmed in, securing the man properly, double-locking the cuffs. Sarah rose, brushing dust from her uniform. She didn't look winded. Gregory stepped back, eyes darting. His argument about compliance officers was drowned under evidence of violence. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen, he muttered, his words swallowed by the crowd. I caught Sarah's glance and realized what she was doing. This wasn't just defense. This was exposure. She was showing the entire neighborhood on camera who the real threats were. The leader of the imposters tried one last line of bravado. You think this ends here? We're not alone. Sarah's gaze was steady as stone. Then let them come. I'll be waiting. He looked away. He had no answer. More cruisers tore around the corner. Deputies spilled out fast and hard. Shotguns leveled, commands shouted. Hands on your head. Down on your knees now. The remaining imposters dropped fast. The leader tried to shout something, but a deputy shoved him against a cruiser and read him his rights. Neighbors cheered. Phones captured everything. Kids who'd been pulled inside peeked through curtains. Gregory stood frozen at the curb, clipboard clutched like a life raft. Every time a deputy barked an order, he flinched. Sarah stayed calm, hands folded behind her back. A sergeant approached, saluting. Sheriff, we've got them secured. Weapons confiscated. No IDs, no departmental markings, just uniforms. Good. Book them for impersonating law enforcement, unlawful detainment, brandishing, and attempted assault. We'll stack charges properly once we have statements. The sergeant's eyes flicked toward Gregory. Sarah let the question hang. Not yet, she said finally. But don't let him leave. He's got questions to answer. As the imposters were loaded into cruisers, Sarah climbed back onto our porch. You all saw it. These men came claiming to be police officers. They weren't. They tried to arrest me with forged authority and loaded weapons. That ends today. This neighborhood is safe, and whoever sent them, her eyes cut to Gregory, will answer for it. Applause broke out. Not polite clapping. Raw, angry relief. Someone shouted thanks. Another yelled, "We've got your back, Sheriff." Gregory's hands shook. Every phone pointed at him, capturing his sweat and silence. Sarah leaned close to me. This wasn't freelance. Somebody planned it, paid for it, and I think we both know who. The cruisers pulled away. The neighborhood buzzed with relief and anger. For the first time in years, the power balance had shifted, and our HOA president still trembled, already plotting his next move. A deputy jogged back across the lawn, holding a folded paper in a gloved hand. "Sheriff, you need to see this." Found it in the jacket pocket of the one with the scar. Sarah unfolded it. I leaned in. County letterhead. Judge's seal. Block letters. Order of detention. My wife's name in bold, lines of legal jargon, and at the bottom, a signature that was just a smear, clearly traced from memory or copied from Google. The judge named had retired 3 years ago. "They didn't just fake uniforms," Sarah said. "They faked a court order. And Sheriff, look at the footer. At the bottom, smaller text, prepared by Community Compliance Division. Beside it, a tiny logo, 2 houses overlapping inside a circle. Not from the county, from the HOA. Sarah read it aloud. Gasps spread through the neighbors. Gregory's face drained. That's not what it looks like." "Really?" Sarah held the paper high for every phone. "Because it looks like you paid imposters to waive fraudulent arrest orders, complete with forged signatures, and sent them to my door." Mr. Jenkins shouted. "He forged court papers?" Another voice. "That's a felony." Gregory held up a trembling hand. "This was a misunderstanding. The compliance committee handled." "The compliance committee doesn't write warrants. Courts do. Judges do. And you, Gregory Allen, are no judge." Sarah folded the paper, slid it into an evidence bag, and sealed it. "Chain of custody. This goes straight to the DA." Gregory's lips moved soundlessly. Neighbors closed ranks, whispers sharp as knives. Someone hissed, "All those fines. How many were real?" Another muttered, "He's been pocketing money for years." Gregory's world had gone dark. He'd just been caught by the one person he could never bully. I glanced at Sarah. Her eyes weren't on Gregory anymore. They were on that evidence bag, the fake warrant that tied everything together. This wasn't just an HOA squabble. This was conspiracy with paperwork, funding, and clear intent. We'd only found the first thread. By the time the cruisers left, Oakwood Heights looked like a block party run by law enforcement. Deputies cordoned off the street. Neighbors gathered in clusters. Sarah stood with the sergeant near a cruiser. The evidence bag lay on the hood. "Sheriff, we ran the footer. Community Compliance Division isn't county. It's a shell. Traces back to a private company. Community Security Solutions, LLC. CSS. He nodded. Out of Houston. They advertise custom neighborhood enforcement. HOAs contract them to handle violations, but they've been flagged for overstepping, trespassing, harassment. Nothing this bold, though. A chill crawled down my back. So they've done this before? Not in uniforms this convincing. These weren't mall cops. Tactical gear, service pistols, forged warrants. Someone funded them heavy. Sarah crossed her arms. And Gregory Allen signed the checks. As if on cue, Gregory shuffled up, flanked by a deputy. His clipboard was gone. "Sheriff, you don't understand. This was supposed to be routine. They assured me they had authority." "Stop!" Sarah cut him off. "You hired imposters. You gave them my name. You sent them to my home with forged documents and guns. That's not compliance. That's conspiracy." Gregory opened his mouth, closed it. The board voted. "The board didn't sign this contract. You did," Mr. Jenkins barked. "So that's where our dues went." Another voice. "You risked our kids for this?" His excuses drowned under rising voices. The sergeant pulled up a screen. "Look here." CSS has been linked to incidents in 3 other subdivisions. Dallas, family forced off their property. Baton Rouge, elderly couple harassed with fake liens. Tulsa, whole neighborhood fined for unauthorized mailboxes. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Pattern. They're not enforcing rules. They're testing how far intimidation goes. And here, the sergeant added, Oakwood Heights. The crowd had gone quiet, listening. The names of other cities hung heavy. This wasn't just their problem anymore. Community Security Solutions is under investigation starting now, Sarah said. Every check, every notice, every so-called violation this HOA pushed through them is evidence. She turned to Gregory. And you are personally responsible for unleashing them on your neighbors. Gregory wilted. I didn't know. You knew enough to write the checks. You knew enough to sign the contract. And you knew enough to target me because you thought the sheriff wouldn't fight back in her own neighborhood. A deputy clicked open a second evidence bag, sliding in Gregory's clipboard and a stack of HOA invoices stamped with CSS's name. The seal snapped shut, final as a cell door. This wasn't a spat about mailboxes. This was organized intimidation. Corporate muscle dressed up as law. And if CSS had run scams in Dallas, Baton Rouge, Tulsa, Oakwood Heights was just another dot on their map. We were in the middle of something much bigger. By evening, the neighborhood wasn't the same. News vans lined the curb. Deputies still patrolled. The HOA clubhouse, usually half empty, was packed wall to wall. I sat in the back, shoulder to shoulder with neighbors I'd waved at for years but never really spoken to. Tonight we weren't strangers. We were angry, restless, ready for answers. Gregory stood at the front, clipboard trembling. Ladies and gentlemen, let's keep order. What happened this morning was an unfortunate misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Someone shouted. They had guns. They tried to arrest the sheriff. Gregory raised both hands. The board authorized additional enforcement through Community Security Solutions. Their methods may have exceeded expectations, but it was for the good of the community. Phones shot up like torches. Someone yelled, "We didn't vote for that." Sarah stepped forward. The clubhouse quieted, not for Gregory, but for her. This morning, 4 armed men in fake police uniforms came to my home. They pointed weapons at my husband. They waved a forged court order with my name on it. And they claimed authority under your HOA. Gasps rippled through the room. Sarah held up the evidence bag. This isn't rumor. This is evidence. It carries the HOA's logo, the name of a shell division, and Gregory Allen's fingerprints. Every phone zoomed in. Gregory sputtered. That's taken out of context. No context justifies impersonating law enforcement. No context justifies endangering children or neighbors stepping onto their porches. What you funded today wasn't compliance. It was criminal. A murmur of agreement swelled. Sarah turned toward the crowd. You all pay dues. You trusted this board. Ask yourselves, where did your money go? A deputy set up a projector. The lights dimmed. Raw video footage from the morning played. Imposters pounding on our door. Me opening it. Sarah stepping out. Guns leveled at me. Dispatch confirming for impersonators. Sarah dropping the scarred man like a sack of flour. When the lights came back up, the room erupted. Shouts, curses, fingers pointing at Gregory. Resign! Someone roared. You put us all in danger. Gregory tried to shout over them. I acted in the community's interest. Sarah raised her hand, silencing the room. The community speaks for itself tonight. And it says you abused your position, endangered families, and hired criminals. That ends now. The silence burned. Every set of eyes bore down on Gregory. Even his allies on the board leaned back, refusing to stand beside him. I looked around and felt it. People weren't just angry. They were awake. The floor is yours, Sarah told the crowd. And Oakwood Heights erupted into something we'd never seen before. Real democracy. The clubhouse felt like it was on fire. Not from heat, but from voices. Neighbors shouting, demanding justice, waving phones like torches. Gregory stood at the front, sweat darkening his collar. "Your HOA president," Sarah said, pointing directly at him, "authorized armed imposters to invade this community. He signed checks to Community Security Solutions. He dressed criminals in uniforms and sent them to my door with forged papers. That's not leadership. That's betrayal." Applause thundered. Someone shouted, "Throw him out!" Gregory's voice cracked. "You're all overreacting. This was a mistake. Clerical, administrative. Clerical doesn't point a gun at a homeowner." A man in the back snapped. "Clerical doesn't forge a judge's signature." Bitter laughter rolled through the room. Gregory's arguments were ashes. Sarah stepped aside. "This is your meeting, your choice. You decide whether this man speaks for you tomorrow, or whether tonight Oakwood Heights takes back its voice." Mrs. Parker, usually quiet as a church mouse, stood from her folding chair. Her hand was steady as she raised it high. "I make a motion to remove Gregory Allen as HOA president. Effective immediately." Cheers exploded. Dozens of hands shot up. Gregory stammered, "That's not in order. The bylaws require 30 days notice." "The bylaws don't shield felonies," Sarah cut in. "Fraud voids authority. Tonight, the people have spoken." A board member leaned into his mic. "Seconded." "All in favor?" Sarah asked. A sea of hands rose. Voices chanted, "Aye." Gregory clutched his clipboard. For the first time, the man who'd fined people for bird feeders had nothing left to say. "All opposed." Silence. The gavel cracked down. Motion carried. Gregory Allen is removed as president of the Oakwood Heights Homeowners Association. The room erupted. Neighbors clapped, hugged. The local reporter grinned, already typing his headline. Gregory sagged, clipboard sliding from his hands with a hollow clatter. But Sarah wasn't done. Tonight is not just about removing one man. It's about ending the culture of fear that let him believe he could hire thugs in uniforms to control you. From now on, Oakwood Heights will not be ruled by threats. You will choose transparency. You will demand accountability. You will lead yourselves. Her words rolled through the room like thunder. Faces glowed with hope. Gregory finally found his voice, weak, trembling. You don't understand. You've made enemies. Bigger than me, bigger than this neighborhood. They'll come after you." Sarah's eyes hardened. "Let them. I'll still be standing." Deputies stepped forward to escort him out. His face was pale, his steps slow, his shoulders hunched under humiliation. Phones tracked him to the door. When it slammed shut, the clubhouse erupted again. I looked around. Oakwood Heights had turned a corner. The fear was gone. The people were awake. But Gregory's final words echoed in my mind. Asterisk bigger than me. Bigger than this neighborhood. Asterisk tonight was victory. But it wasn't the end. The next morning, Oakwood Heights woke to a different kind of siren. Media. News vans lined the street. Satellite dishes pointed skyward. Reporters clustered at the end of the block. By breakfast, we were on every major channel. Clips ran on repeat. The pounding, the shouting, Sarah stepping out with her badge flashing. The moment she twisted the scarred man to the ground. By noon, the headlines scrolled across national news. Asterisk sheriff's neighborhood targeted by fake cops. HOA president ousted amid scandal. Asterisk the district attorney held a press conference. We are pursuing charges of impersonating law enforcement, falsification of legal documents, conspiracy, and reckless endangerment. Community Security Solutions LLC is under federal review. We will not tolerate criminal intimidation disguised as neighborhood enforcement. A reporter asked if Gregory faced charges. The DA's jaw tightened. No one is above the law. Social media burned with hashtags. Memes sprouted. Sarah's badge photoshopped over movie posters. Gregory's sweaty face paired with captions like, "Neighborhood tyrant down." Neighbors spoke boldly to cameras. Mrs. Parker told one reporter, "We were scared of Gregory. He fined me for a flagpole. But now he's finished." Sheriff Sarah gave us our voices back. Still, underneath the noise, the danger hadn't gone away. That night, Sarah sat at our kitchen table, laptop open, files spread around her. Deputies had delivered stacks of invoices from Gregory's clipboard, payments routed from HOA dues directly to CSS. This wasn't just Oakwood Heights, she said, rubbing her temples. CSS is running the same play across 3 states. They test boundaries, see how far intimidation goes before someone pushes back. I leaned against the counter. And you were the pushback. She gave a tired smile. And now they know exactly who stood in their way. Later, the phone rang, late enough to tighten my gut. It was the governor's office. They wanted her in the Capitol by Monday to brief on community safety vulnerabilities. When she hung up, her expression had hardened. This isn't just about an HOA anymore. The state wants answers. I stepped closer. Gregory warned us, said it was bigger than him. What if he wasn't bluffing? Sarah closed the file in front of her. Then we're not just cleaning up Oakwood Heights. We're pulling back the curtain on something much larger. And once it starts, there's no going back. Outside, the street was quiet again. But I didn't feel peace in that quiet. I felt the weight of a storm still gathering. Oakwood Heights had won its battle. But the war, stretching far beyond our neighborhood, was only beginning. 2 weeks later, the clubhouse that once echoed with Gregory's voice stood empty. Windows dark, notice boards stripped bare. Gregory hadn't left quietly. Deputies cuffed him in broad daylight, cameras rolling, neighbors cheering. The charges were heavy. Conspiracy, fraud, reckless endangerment, misuse of funds. His clipboard, once a symbol of control, was logged as evidence. The same day, federal agents raided CSS's Houston office. Boxes hauled out, hard drives seized. Executives led away in suits that looked less sharp under handcuffs. A reporter announced CSS contracts spanned 12 neighborhoods across 3 states, all under review. Oakwood Heights felt lighter. Mailboxes sprouted flags. Kids rode bikes without parents peering over fences. Fear was gone, replaced by something we hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Neighbors stopped Sarah in the street to thank her. Some called her a hero. She just smiled and said she was doing her job. But I knew better. She'd risked everything, our home, our peace, to stand against a machine designed to silence people like us. One evening, we sat on the porch with coffee. Cool air, cicadas humming. No flashing lights, no shouts, no reporters. Just quiet. Sarah leaned back, eyes on the darkening sky. Oakwood Heights will rebuild. But this isn't over. I frowned. Gregory's gone. CSS is finished. What more is there? She turned her gaze to me. Gregory was a symptom. CSS was a tool. Someone funded them, pushed them, gave them cover. You don't build a network like that without deeper pockets and higher friends. Her words sank like a stone. I thought back to Gregory's warning. Asterisk bigger than me. Bigger than this neighborhood. Asterisk at the time, it sounded like desperation. Now it sounded like prophecy. We sat in silence. Across the street, Mrs. Parker's porch light flicked on. Down the block, kids laughed. Free again. Normal life was returning. But beneath it, something darker hummed. I looked at Sarah, the silver of her badge catching the porch light. She wasn't just my wife. She was the line between order and chaos. And the chaos wasn't finished. So what happens when the next wave comes? I asked. She didn't look away from the sky. Then we'll be ready. I believed her. But deep down, I knew the storm that began on our porch hadn't ended with Gregory Allen's fall. It had only shown its face. Somewhere beyond Oakwood Heights, in offices and boardrooms we couldn't yet see, the real enemy was already watching, waiting. And this time they knew our names.